Welcome back. We're live at Forum 2023, hosted by the National Association of Workforce Boards from Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Ron Painter, and I have, as we do in all of these segments, I think, I have a really special guest, a friend, a mentor, a colleague for 45. A few years.
45 for me.
We've been going back a few years, and it is the president of Workforce Solutions Dallas, Laurie Bouillion Larrea. And Laurie, you recently made an announcement, and we caught up because there's things I obviously want to get out of you before you head out of Dallas.
Ron, it's been an interesting 3 or 4 days. We made the announcement jointly, the board chair and myself, Thursday evening. And I will be stepping away from Dallas, but I hope to still be a resource to workforce nationally, do what I can, help some more of the boards. I've loved my profession. As you know, we are addicted to these things, are we not? Yes. I say work makes life happen. And I believe it is the key to really good lives. And so I hope to stick around in the business, but not 60 hours a week every week.
Laurie, talk about when you first got into this business. What was it like? What did they tell you it was about? And then we're gonna move forward. But talk about when you first got into this business. What were the issues? What was it like?
It was the 70s. And I took a desk at an employment service office because I was laid off. And the guy looked at me, he said, "You have a degree and you're standing in the line. Would you like a desk?" I said, "Sure, why not?"
And that was in Houston?
Port Arthur. Port Arthur with the
Okay.
Texas Employment Commission. And I began doing CETA eligibility for Vietnam refugees. And I didn't speak Vietnamese and they didn't speak English. And yet we made it happen. And lots of refugees went to training and lots of refugees went to work. CETA was different. And that was a temp job. I left that temp job and went down the street to good friends of ours at the Council of Government, Rodney Bradshaw.
Yeah.
And they hired me as a CETA participant in Title VI because I had been laid off, had a degree. Back then, everyone could work. You could make $10,000 a year.
Okay.
As a college graduate in the program, but it was a time limited. So after that, they hired me, and it went very fast. I was in charge of the board about 2.5 years. Go figure.
Holy cow. When did you move from Houston to Dallas?
Well, Port Arthur was about 7 years.
Okay.
Left my hometown to go to Houston. I was doing things with organized labor in Port Arthur. Lots of layoffs at the refineries. So actually, the AFL-CIO came and got me and said, "Could you come help?" So I went into Houston as a director under an exec. Did 4 years in Houston. It was really exciting times in the 80s. And then really we left there because hubby, my husband, was a Fed. He went back to work for Department of Labor. So we moved to Dallas, and that was 36 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I've been with the board 34.
So think about those years. Like, what are the issues that you look back on and you see those issues? Are they back at us? Are they different? Do they look different, sound different?
They're always different, but there is a cycle to it, and I've seen it. The ebb and flow of the economy, the ebb and flow of need for workers, transition based upon finding other ways to do work, automation. Changing from the manufacturing, changing from even early tech. I was in the community with TI when they had major layoffs in the early 90s. So as I look at it through that lens, I'm very hopeful about the next ebb and flow because I always know it comes back.
Yeah. We have a few younger staff. And so when
40?
when I mentioned to them IBM Selectric, I get this like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was, that was pretty crazy.
It was.
IBM Selectrics.
I remember renting one to do a term paper because we didn't own one. You had an older model, Smith, but you had to rent one, and that was good. That was a good way to go. Actually, in Port Arthur, I will tell you, in about 1979-80, we got one of the first IBM System 6. Department of Labor invested, and back then we were prime sponsors. So
Yes, under the
cities like-
Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, CETA.
Yes. So we got direct grant funding from Washington, from the regional office. I can remember actually flying up to Dallas to get checks for millions of dollars and getting back on the Southwest plane to get back to Port Arthur. But the System 6 was truly revolutionary. It was huge. It was probably about 9 foot long, 4 feet off the wall. And what it did, you could type a letter and you could mail merge. Woohoo! And I mean, we were on fire for this thing, and it cost a fortune.
Yeah.
But it was the beginning. And then today, it's a phone, but
Yes.
it was so wonderful to look back and know we lived through all of this change, right?
We have lived through a lot of change. We have. And a lot of different opinion about what it is we do. Reflect on so you're the president of the Workforce Board. Workforce boards came along. CETA was the first time that the federal government said, hey, business has something in this.
Yes.
We need to get the advisory boards, and we need to get this partnership. How has that evolved, and how has your role as a workforce board director evolved?
It's very curious. I think we've learned to explain it to business in a much more professional way than come and be an advisor. I think I now tell them, you're one of the few organizations as workforce boards where business is both the customer and they're also the funder. It's your tax dollars. And you actually have input on how those tax dollars are spent on behalf of your company and workforce. And it sort of jars them. We wouldn't have explained it that way under, CETA and the board's the initial picks. But I am sitting with a board now that is 40 years old this year. They were an original pick. Back,
wow.
Yes, 1983, as JTPA came in.
Private industry councils
yes,
were
yes.
changed. The name was changed, and now
We
they were
had
the
4 name
advisors.
changes. Yes.
And now they're
Yes.
truly, to your point, they're truly partners.
Oh, yes.
It takes both.
It does. And I worry that perhaps we're going to see an ebb and flow on that, the misunderstanding of what workforce boards should be and how workforce boards are supposed to contribute. And some of the restrictions are no local control, less control in some states, perceptions in some states as to what you can and can't do. And of course, the Texas model, I have to throw that in. We have just been so blessed that just about everything in WIOA has been realized. And the board has access to this braided funding. It makes life so different. And I would love to see that more likely across the nation. I think it would help employers to see a more global view. You look at childcare, you look at adult education. To me, adult ed is a part of workforce, but I don't think it's recognized that way. But most of the people who are struggling have academic deficiency, probably in reading and math, have maybe an insecurity. I mean, it's the whole picture. And of course, we're both disciples. We both believe in this work. I do believe in this work. I know this work changes lives, and I know it changed my life. To work in something you really care about, it's worth getting up every day.
I was going to ask you, what's the best part of being a local director?
Oh, I wish that there was just one thing, but it's the feeling that a job fair, going into the community and actually recognizing the transition when someone says, I got a job on the spot. And in ours, we ring a bell when you get a job, and it's the sound of those bells going off. Lives are changing in a way that I don't think anything else does change. I think education's part of it, but I think getting a job and realizing there's going to be income and security and benefits. People are changed by what we do, and we got to keep that going.
Talk to me about one of the themes that we've been talking about at the forum is leadership and calling the boards to exert leadership in their community. Talk about Laurie's leadership and how has that evolved from your, when you were the workforce, well, I guess they were private industry councils back then. You were the private industry council director, workforce board director. Talk about what how you categorize your leadership or how you look at it, and how's that evolved?
Back in the early days, we had so much frontline activity. So we were actually working both as strategic planning and oversight, and then frontline in the workforce centers, and they were smaller. It was more like a government program. That morphed. For me, it became mindful that there was innovation to be had. And I wouldn't have thought that early on. You follow the rules, you color inside the lines. And as we've seen more and more the infusion of private funding, grant funding, departments outside of Department of Labor. We only knew Department of Labor.
Yeah.
Now you've got education, you've got agriculture, you've got HHS, and we have learned to see all of that as simply a mosaic of government investment, and I would have never thought of us that way. I think the investment for me 10 years ago, big shift, partly because I wasn't 30-something anymore. Life has a way of teaching you, but partly in that I've seen so much in workforce, I realize it's endless. Change is endless, good change. Innovation is necessary, and giving yourself permission to do that, manage the risk, and give your people a chance to do that. That's the lesson, and I wouldn't have done that 40 years ago.
We're honoring you at Forum 2023, really the work that you've done in partnership with the community college.
Yes.
I'm a new director. Talk to me about what you recognize as key ingredients in successful collaboration.
Oh, first and foremost, trust. This is relationship-based work. It is trust. It is years in the making. There's a friendship in some areas, but more importantly, there is a trust that there's work to be done by both sides. And yet we're not even sides. We're two pieces of the puzzle, and there's others to be invited. We have great relationship with our economic development partners at the Chamber. They're here for the event. I worry that there's too much transition so that you don't build that bond. Trust is earned. Trust is absolutely earned, and you got to have some disagreements. You've got to bounce back from that. You've got to share resources and be comfortable with that. But you also have to share authority. You can't go out to the community and say, I alone can do that, No. It's all of us together, and it's getting those isolated parties to buy in, that it's all of us together. I had a great chancellor, several great chancellors. They've all served on our board, and the community college has it's been a factor in our success, and I think us in theirs. Dr. Joe May was with us for a while, and he came to me and he's like, let's get adult ed in the workforce system. And we kind of went to battle with the Dallas ISD that had the grant 30 plus years, but we showed them the difference. If it's a workforce piece, it's going to make a difference. Give us everybody over 18 and we'll do it. And that was 9 years ago. And we have thousands going through every year. And they have career pathways from WIOA. Everything that was envisioned in that law can be done. So I think I would say start with trust and build that trust. It can't just be, trust me.
I'm going to ask, not totally the flip side, but I'm going to ask partway to the flip side.
Okay.
If there's something that you look back on and you wish you could have moved further down the field, you wish that the organization was deeper in, is there something that you're leaving and you say, if we could have just pushed deeper or further?
That is a great question. We've done sector strategies for 23 years. We've really done well in the consortium of boards in the North Texas area. I don't think we maximized that. I think we touched it and we backed up, touched it and backed up. I wish we had, in fact, blown the doors off, really made it happen. I think there's still time.
It's late at night. You're about to turn the light out. Probably Robert's already.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're taking measure of the day. Mm-hmm. And you're going to make that determination. It was a good day, it was a bad day. What makes it a good day?
A good day is either that a staff person was made to feel really good about what they do, a customer, job seeker or employer, or even our contractors and vendors, that I get that positive feeling that we've got one more piece of the puzzle. One more person has buy-in that day. One more person feels this program, feels the success. And even if that day was a monitoring exit, okay, or an audit exit, it could be a good day if I think someone's life was positively affected. If it's a day with that's not a worthwhile day, and we got to get rid of those. It has to be purposeful every day because there's just so much work to do.
I say with great confidence, there are tens of thousands of people in Dallas that will never know Laurie Bouillion Larrea's name, but whose lives have been touched, whose lives have been enriched because of the work that you have done all of your career. So on behalf of all those people, let me say thanks.
Oh, Ron, very kind, very kind. I thank them because I have had a heck of a life and a career doing what I love to do. And I hope to keep doing a little more of it, just not as the chief of a massive system, because that is strenuous, and it's time for the next generation.
So when we give a note, Robert, your husband, can we give a note to Robert that there's going to be more home-cooked meals, or no? We're going, no.
He's got to max that out during COVID. I'm a pretty good cook.
All right.
So, yep.
Laurie, thank you. I really appreciate it. You've been joining me and a very special guest, Laurie Bouillion Larrea, president still yet of Workforce Solutions Dallas. You've been working with us, you've been hanging out with us here at Forum 2023, hosted by the National Association of Workforce Boards from Washington, D.C. It's my pleasure to be your host. I'm Ron Painter, and we hope that you continue to watch us as we talk to more fascinating people here at Forum 2023.